Okay, so now we'll enter the world of object-oriented programming. Whoops, wait. Aren't we using object-oriented programming all the way? Of course we are, but we are not utilizing each and every aspect of it yet. So, given here is, in our previous example, we are just using the main method, always main method. Remember that we can only have one main method in a class. So what does it mean? Why do we actually need one main method? What if I totally delete this one? That is the question that we will answer in this video tutorial. So to start with it, main method will be the first one that will be executed by the program, as we have talked during our previous videos. But what are these two? We can actually add several methods inside a class. Remember, a class is a collection of methods. So whether you have 100 methods around here, the main method will always be executed first if you run this Java program. Okay, so how do we actually call this printer in this example? From the main method. Remember, when we are calling from a static method, we should be calling a static method also. So how can we call this one or this one inside this one? Okay, so that's where the constructor comes in. So what is a constructor? You can actually follow me through the courseware, which is the objects and methods, and you'll be able to see there this one. Okay, so it's all about the constructor, but I'll put it simply here. So basically, a class has a constructor, and whether it is viewable or not, it always has a public constructor which is named just after the class. So it always have this one, just like in this example, it has this one. Okay, so the public pet, it has this constructor, no parameters, and that's basically it. It's actually automatic, so you don't have to put it. So now, how do we call a constructor of this one? So let's start with a class name, and then any identifier. Again, this is up to you. You can use A, B, C, or any identifier here. So for me, I'll just use H, which just signifies hello, is equal to, let's use the word new. So when we say new, we are creating another object here, and then hello. This is what we call the constructor. So as I have said, it has a while ago. So okay, again, so this hello refers to the constructor that we have talked about a while ago. It is the automatically generated constructor. So basically it is a right now it's an imaginary constructor, but it is already there. So Java already knows that there is a constructor that named hello. So this one, this line in line 6, basically says that we are creating an object, a new instance of this class, and putting it in an object which is the H. So basically this H is now an object. So that means whatever this class has, this also has. So if this class has this method, we can also call it from this objects, because this is now an object, because this is now an instance of this whole class. So how can we actually call this one? Let's say h dot printer, and then this one tells us that the printer is actually asking for an input, or what we call a parameter, and basically it is a string parameter. So it asks for a string, so let's just give it a string. Output this. There we have it, and then just save it. And the printer does only one thing. It outputs whatever it is that we have passed on to it. So let's try this one out. Okay, let me just change to okay. And just run it. There we have it. So now we can now call this one in the main method. Okay, so can I not really do it just directly like this dot printer and then output sound? Okay, so the answer is no, because as I have said, only static variable can actually be referenced in a main method because it is static. Okay, so to be able to call any other method or variable in the main method, you should have a new constructor. Okay, so one more thing. What if I have here, for example, I'll have two inputs, the int x and int y, which is equal to 2 and then equal to 4. And then I want to add it first before I actually output it using this code. So what we need to do is, again, just call it h.sum, and then this time it's asking for two parameters. Actually, for two parameters, it's asking for two parameters. So let's give it the x and y. There we have it. And it says that it returns. So basically here you can see the difference between these two is that this could also be public or just void, and this could also be int or with the name public. Public means it can actually be accessed between classes, so we'll talk about it in the future. So right now let's just talk about how to call this one and what is the difference between public void and public int. Okay, in a public void, it means that it doesn't return anything. So when we say void, it doesn't give any return, while if it is not void, whether it is int or string, it means it gives us a return value. And this one, this part here, gives us the hint of what will be the return value of this method. So if this returns an int, of course we should put int here, but if it returns a string, you should declare this as public string or just simply string sum. But since we are using sum here, obviously these are numbers and it's accepting int, so there's no way that it will actually give us double or float, so we'll give it also an int. So there we have it. So let's give it a try, and of course after adding it we want to output it. So we can do this in two different methods. First is this one, or we can put it in a variable which is sum equals this one, and then of course just put it here, and we want to print it without having the need to actually process it within the main method. So this could actually be also called information hiding. This is that one wherein this main method doesn't really know what the sum method does, whether this actually subtracts it or divides it. But of course, from the word itself, it's telling us that it gives us sum, or it's adding these two numbers. But again, in the concept of information hiding, this method doesn't really have to know what is being done inside another method. Just like this one, the printer, all we know is that it accepts parameter, and it, who knows what will it do before printing, right? So just like this one, we just know that it accepts two numbers and then returns a number, but we don't know what is being done behind it. So this is very helpful, especially if you're dealing with confidential data, just like balance in banks or any other transactional processes. So information hiding, or what we also know as encapsulation. Okay, so let's give it a try, and let's see what will be the output. Okay, so we are having this problem because, as you can see, it says that int cannot be converted to string, because what we actually know is that over here we are having an integer, but we need a string input here to be outputted. So what could be the right solution in this one? Okay, it's either change this one or push this to be string. So let's try first if this will work. If we really want it to be pushed through, okay, so it says that int cannot be converted to string. So in that way, because this is just an example of calling methods, we won't go deeply within the conversion, but let's just change this for now into an integer, just to make sure that this one works and it can actually call another method from the main method. So there we have it. We have an 6, which is 4 plus 2, and it is by using main method calling two other methods within the same class. Okay, so hopefully you learned something new today, and happy coding, everyone!